It says we're live, Josh. We're live, and it is
Are we
me,
live?
your host, Marco DeSantos, also known as Mechanic Critic, and with me is the ever amazing, ever wonderful, ever busy project manager at Level 99 Games himself, the one, the only.
Josh or Ithri. Hey, everybody.
Hola, everyone. How's everybody doing? It's been a hot week since we've seen each other, Josh. How are ya?
Uh, Fine. Very busy.
Fine.
It was very busy with soccer arms. In fact, I'm working on soccer arm stuff right now during our live stream.
Ho ho, why do you do
We're,
this
we're
during our live stream, Josh? I'm
I'm
so
just I'm
sad.
finishing stuff up. I'm not like gonna work
Oh
full time.
man,
But
that's
yeah, we
so
got
sad.
we got a
Wait, that's
Kickstarter on the 27th, and we got a week and a half left
yeah,
before then. So we gotta get some more stuff done.
right.
Not quite ready yet.
We need to get we need to get things done. Oh no! But
Yeah.
outside of that, let's stick to the topic of this podcast or live
Right.
cast, right? Hi everyone. Hi chat. Do tell me if you see that we are live. I see that there's not a lot of people here, which makes sense. You know, sometimes you just wanted to see the first part. You don't want to see the second part. That's all right with me. But we're going to be finishing up Wilhelm Bartz. So for people who don't know who Wilhelm Bartz is, Wilhelm is the custom character we started making around sometime last month because we were trying to show off the fact that we have all of these new templates that you can use to create your own custom characters. So we went into the design of how to make your own custom character. In the previous episode, we spent like an hour or an hour and a half basically just coming up with the UA.
Yeah, we came up with a bit of the styles and whatnot, but not in detail.
Right. Okay. So chat is saying that they see us. Hello, chat. Welcome, welcome. So this is very, very important to note in that we spent the entirety of part one just thinking about the UA and thinking about the playstyle and thinking about what makes the character, or as I like to say, the core experience of the character. Because if you don't have that down pat, this part number two, will take you centuries. that's the trade-off here. By essentially setting the foundation that is the character unique ability and the character playstyle, Josh and I are going to be able to power through all of the cards simply because we know the playstyle by default, right? Josh,
Yeah,
crack me up
definitely.
here. Pretend that I know what I'm
Definitely.
talking about.
Now that we know what the we can know what kind of cards can support a UA like that, and what kind of a kit that Wilhelm might want.
Yes. So let's look at the cards. So for a quick refresh, Josh and I decided that Wilhelm would be a fourth wall breaking character because in lore he basically is self-aware that he's in a board game. So Wilhelm as a character is essentially a brawler or a character who's kind of like a jack of all trades, you know. Can do a lot of minor things. He probably leans towards a little bit of like uh he's not like a brawler like Hikaru. He's kind of like more like a brawler like Luke or a brawler like, you know, with like disruption effects, not a lot of power, but like a decent amount of ability to control what the opponent does. So if you look at his unique ability that we've listed down here, we're now using the version 4 character classifications or character playstyles or character archetypes, whatever you want to call them, as the mechanic. So Wilhelm basically just has a modal unique ability wherein he has a different UA depending on the archetype of the enemy fighter. If the opponent is a slugger or mage, these characters are usually slow and awkward. He gets optional end of beat, advance, or retreat 1. This lets him essentially reposition himself so that the juggernauts can't stay close, or that he can go in on mages who have bad minimum ranges. Start, the opponent is a tactician or disruptor, guard 2. This is because tacticians and disruptors really like stunning you out with their fast cards, so getting guard is good. And the opponent is a brawler or a tinkerer. Brawlers and tinkerers tend to be characters that love trading, love taking minuscule edges on their opponents. So getting +1 power essentially lets you even the playing field against them. All of these are very simple. All of these are very clean. So let's move on to the cards. We've already talked about a majority of the card types and card playstyles that we want to go for. Josh, which of these do you want to start with?
I need access to the sheet, actually. I can't see what you're looking at.
I linked you to this sheet
right
before,
now.
Josh.
It's been a while.
Alright, let me just go on to Discord and send it to you. Yar har, diddle-dee-dee.
Alright.
And
So we have an idea of what we want the cards to do.
Right. This is okay, let's put this in a separate column over here that we'll say it like as notes.
Sure.
Right, because we actually need to put the effects in the effects text boxes. All right, so chat, by the way, don't hesitate to ask questions about like what we're doing, what we're thinking about, our thought processes. I will try our best to talk through it all, but again, it's not always going to be clean and pretty for everyone. So actually, in the dead of night, I was actually already thinking about the unique base.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
Right. So again, this isn't necessarily something that I always like starting with, and I'm not saying that when you create your custom character, you should always be starting with the unique base. But one thing that's really important to note is that your unique base essentially pairs with every style that you have, right? So just from a practical standpoint, you should really create your unique base kinda first, because it basically has to pair with almost every single other card you have. Now, for some people, it might be easier to design every single other card, then design a unique base that fits that theme. I just like starting from this end of it all because it's actually easier to create a thing and then know that everything else has to pair with it, rather than creating 17 different things and then trying to like chimera a unique base that works with almost all of them. Because the other flip side to this is you create a unique base that doesn't work with some of your styles, right? And that just kind of feels bad a lot of the time. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes it feel like you have a few less options. So this is a thing for Kadath, for example. Blight Snare, like, is an attack pair that exists, but it's not good. Lure Snare kinda is okay, but it's not amazing. You know what I mean? Like, Blight and Lure are two cards that give your attack a lot of bonus range, but Kadath's Snare doesn't gain extra range from them. So, like, 90% of the reason you'd play those cards just doesn't exist. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a bit hit or miss there. So, I prefer to start with a unique base. So, I had an idea. Again, like I said earlier, he's kind of like a brawler-esque character, similar to Luke, not like Hikaru. So we're almost like verging near disruptor levels, right? So we want to be more like a bit of a controlling kind of brawler. So less about dealing tons of damage, more about having like disruption effects and stunning people out and stuff. So here's my idea for it. So the inspiration is Luke, and what's this? Probability manipulation. So there's two facets that I'm trying to balance here, right? I want to manipulate probability, and I want to kind of have a disruption-based unique base. What is probability manipulation in BattleCON? Josh, what is it? Because it has no random elements. It's a game with no random elements, so...
Right. I mean, you could manipulate force. You could manipulate what style and base they're playing, you know, like with clashing or whatnot.
So that's very interesting, because the only manipulation of probability you need to actually do is reduce the number of options your opponent has, right? So I want to do something along the lines of hit, the opponent discards a style. So this is a very unique effect. Actually, I'm pretty sure almost no one has this effect because it is simply very powerful. Unlike discarding a base, at any point in time, you have like 5 bases in hand. But at any point in time, you only have 4 styles in hand, right? So by giving you less access to styles, you actually heavily limit the ability of the opponent to do things, right? But it's just simply reducing their style count to 3. It essentially brings them back to version 1 BattleCon, where people only had 3 styles. So
that's a cute callback too.
Right.
For someone like Wilhelm,
Yeah. So I was thinking, if we want to like a disruption style ability, we want to have Luke's Flash in mind as kind of like, what do we want from this kind of unique base? So I was thinking, and for people who don't know, Flash is a base that has the following stat line. It's range 1, power 1, priority 6. On hit, start of beat, it advances 1 space, and then it ignores guard. So if the opponent takes any damage, he just instantly gets stunned. I don't think we want to do that for Wilhelm, because that's not the kind of disruption that he's going for, right? The kind of disruption is he's manipulating your probability, right? So this is already our quote-unquote hit. This is the hit opponent discards a style is our version of ignore guard, right? I do think that Wilhelm is built to be kind of like an awkward mathematician-like character. So if you want to represent an awkward character, or you want to represent a character with quirky abilities, in BattleCON, the really great way to do that is to give them a weird range. So for example, range 2 on an attack just makes absolutely no sense, right? Like, it's very awkward to hit. Now, why would this be a semi-good idea for Wilhelm? Well, if you look at his unique ability, against sluggers or mages, the characters wherein these characters tend to be immobile, advance or retreat as an end of beat effect basically means that you can always set up to confirm this base at range 2, right? Which is great. We can obviously augment this by creating styles that help you get into this range better. So that's good. Power 2, again, because we're not ignoring guard, we can actually afford to give it more power. So I'm expecting like power 2 for this. I don't want to give it 6 priority because, well, 6 is really fast already. But I think 5 priority is fine. And I do want to give it guard 1. So why this exact stat line? Why does this make sense? Well, range 2 again because an awkward character. Why power 2? Well, if you think about it this way, if he's against a brawler or a tinkerer, this becomes a power 3 speed priority 5 attack, and that's actually really good. You usually want to, like, the moment you're going to 5 priority, your attack basically needs to only have 2 power. Again, grasp is the very obvious comparison here. But if you're against a brawler or a tinkerer, it turns into like a super grasp by having basic 3 power. That's Gucci gang. I like that. And finally, why 1 guard? Because against tacticians and disruptors, you have +2 guard. So if you play this against a tactician or disruptor, you suddenly have magical guard 3, which is great. And even not against tacticians or disruptors, you have force stun guard, which basically lets you get it to guard 3, which is semi-decent. It's not amazing because when you're considering force, you want to have 4 stun guard because the opponent can always anti for power. But even then, stun guard 3 is not half bad if your unique base just has it as a slight buff. So notice one big thing here, Josh. What have you noticed that I've done?
Beyond what you talked about already?
Well, yeah, like I talked about how each of the unique abilities kind of works with this base, right?
Right.
But notice how I did it. How did I do it? Did I do it by explicitly calling out every single combination of character archetypes?
No, you just kept them in mind, right? When you got to, power, you remembered that, sometimes I'll get more power, so that can't be too strong. Right. And, I can afford to make it a weird range because sometimes I'll get to move at the end of beat.
Right.
And stuff.
So this is a design concept in BattleCon and a lot of games that I think is very important. And I don't know what the correct game design term for this is, but I call it implicit design, which is the opposite force to explicit design. Does that make sense? So one thing when I design characters for BattleCon, and I'm not sure if you do this as well when you design Bullet or whatever, is that I design interactions that are not explicit or that are implicit. So for example, it's like, this has 2 guard, this has 1 guard, right? That kind of fuses together to create 3 guard, which is on average how much guard you want. This is an interaction that players find out as they play the character, right? This isn't like, how many BattleCon characters have you played wherein it's like, if Loki is between you and the opponent, then you get this bonus stat. Like, that's what I call like explicit design, and a lot of like the more complicated characters use this because, again, they're complicated. But the point is that they explicitly call out the function of the card, such that like it basically auto plays the card for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is a subtle interaction that makes you feel smart as a player, or at least if you saw this base and you played BattleCon, you would immediately look and go, wait, why is it only one guard? And then you would figure out, oh, because of my UA. Okay.
Right.
Right.
So it gives that player the moment of like discovery where they go, oh, so that's why, right? Like, oh, so that's how it works, right? Which I like as a experience, right? And the problem with cards like Valiant, which is the Tannis style I was talking about with Loki, is that the use case for them is one and done. It's set in stone, right? Like, oh, is Loki between me and the opponent? All right, I'll play this, right? Like, like Valiant Shot, right? Whatever, right? It's cool. Don't get me wrong, but also the card basically tells you how to play it, right? And that's good.
Yeah, there's no discovery. It's just do this.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's good if the character you're playing is actually complicated as heck, like Tannis, who is an advanced character. But Wilhelm is a simple character. So you can't just give him a bunch of like cards that basically auto-play themselves, because he's already a character that essentially auto-plays himself, right? We can't have a simple character have simple-to-play cards all the time, because then they're Cadenza, which is... like, you know, Cadenza's fun and all, but, like, not everyone should be Cadenza, right?
Sure.
Right. Sorry, Chad is saying, which one of you is Chad? Neither of us are Chad. I'm sorry. Chad also says, give him a Millennium Blades deck, then let him search and select cards. Instant probability reduction. That's probability reduction for him, though. I don't think he wants to do that.
We didn't give Rarity in BattleCon a full Millennium Blades deck either, so we wouldn't be giving Wilhelm that.
Yeah. You think the Millennium Blades character would have a full deck like that, right?
I mean, we gave her Millennium Blades cards, basically, but...
yeah, they all have flip effects, too.
She doesn't play Millennium Blades, she plays, like, kind of Millennium.
Gosh, imagine if she did play Millennium Blades, though, and actually had to buy cards.
That would be interesting. Like, how much can you make Millennium Blades work in BattleCon?
That's an entirely different thing, though. And here's the thing, though.
Right.
When you do that, you've already gone into this with the goal of not creating a good character. You've gone into this with the goal of creating a character for memes, right?
Or, creating a certain type of experience, right? We want a player that knows Millennium Blades to get into BattleCon and go, oh, this is a new game, but I still get it because I know how Millennium Blades works.
But that's creating a Millennium Blades character in BattleCon. That's not creating a BattleCon character, right? Which is a very important distinction. Okay, so we have our unique base. Do you want to name it?
Be named I want to name the end, probably.
Yeah, because then we know... So here's another important thing that Josh has already pointed out, is that we usually do the naming at the end. Because style effects, card effects can change as we design them, and we don't want to waste time, right? Like, if
we do a lot of top-down design, but for BattleCon, it's a bit of a bottom-up design, right? We could name all the styles, but then we kind of lock ourselves in and go like, oh, the style perplexing, so the effect has to make sense with that, right? Yeah. So this way we can bottom-up design, just make everything that makes sense mechanically, and figure out what names make sense later.
Right. And, there's nothing wrong with top-down design. It's just that top-down design is not an efficient way to necessarily create a character from scratch, because...
especially not for BattleCon, right? Like, Bullet is very top-down design, constantly, but BattleCon is a little more nuanced to as mechanics, so you can't always do that.
Right, because in BattleCon, like, if one of your styles is bad... in Bullet, if one of your patterns is bad, it's fine. Right, actually,
you have 9 others. Yeah,
you have 9 others, and a lot of Bullet characters are actually designed to have that one stopgap pattern that makes them go, how do I play this? Right, that's actually part of the design space. The problem with BattleCon is if one of your styles is bad, that means like 1/5 of your entire kit is bad, and that's not good. That's no bueno, right? Okay. Sorry, chat is saying really missed out on an opportunity for the best set, War of Cadenzas. Yeah, that's just called any BattleCon play group that only plays Cadenza. I think any draws at Worlds 2021 should be resolved by a full game of Millennium Blades. Now, that's a really interesting point. But bold of you to assume that there will be draws.
Secret Millennium Blades game, right? Where, you check the Gen Con list for the Millennium Blades games and you find out that, you have to tie in a tournament to play Millennium.
It was an ARG all along. If you actually look at every single episode of the podcast, take the third word I say in each of them, it creates a code phrase that is actually a coupon at our shop that lets you get into a secret. No, that's a lie. Don't. Okay, so let's talk about...
we got these styles. Yeah, let's get these styles knocked out.
Yeah, let's get these styles knocked out. So, these four, red, orange, yellow, and blue, all care about the keywords, right? Or the character archetypes. The only one that's agnostic or, doesn't care about all of that is the hit confirm style, right?
Mm-hmm. So that one could mess with maybe some other meta game concepts.
Sure.
Like force actions or something like that, maybe.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that's interesting. So if something like the opponent spent force this turn or something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that, right? You get priority boosts on reveal or something.
Well, it's a hit confirm style, right? So it's probably giving us range. So actually, that's really interesting. So what if it's like priority plus 0 to 1 to start, right? Actually, I should just go with the... Oh, it doesn't let you do that. Okay, whatever. Plus 0 to 1, and then something like start... The opponent spent force this beat. I don't know. Like, it just gives you... It gives you even more, right? It gives you even more hit confirm. Okay, but hit confirm... So this is really interesting. Do we want it to be mobility-based hit confirm, or do you want to give him more range? So because of his unique... and here's a real question, right? Because before Advance 1 is essentially the same as getting range plus 0 to 1, right? But Advance 1 would non-bow with the unique base. Because if you Advance 1, then you won't
hit with your unique base, right?
Right.
So we probably just want to extend the range.
Well, here's another option. What if it was before Advance or Retreat 1?
Oh, then you can course correct, right?
Then you can course correct if you're at explicitly range 1 with your unique base, right?
Sure.
So we could make this into a before Advance or Retreat 1. Cool. So, this doesn't extend past the bounding boxes. Let us text warp it like this. Cool. So, with that in mind, this is essentially a 0 to 1 range style. And I like to design styles by just having zeros everywhere first, and then figuring out where it needs ups and downs, right? So this is a nothing, right? This before effect is technically a nothing. And by that I mean it doesn't actually do much, you know what I mean? Because it has a very specific condition, right?
Yeah, you probably won't need to retreat that much, and yeah, it's conditional. So
that technically doesn't really affect anything else on the style, which means that if you're in your mind, a style can afford to basically be plus 0 to 1 range, plus 1 power, plus 1 priority, and not be broken, then we have some leeway to play with these values. What does Wilhelm need? What does Wilhelm want? And let's talk about the play pattern behind this. So in BattleCon, if you think about how people spend force, you can actually semi-consistently get this effect by just anti-ing force priority. Because if you anti-force priority, the opponent essentially has to counter anti-force priority, right?
Yeah, so you literally like metagame them into triggering your effect.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, chat is saying, nah, just Pocket Pro Tour, as if the tournaments weren't strapped enough for time as it is. I'll accept Argent as a compromise. Yeah, was gonna say that'd be a real strong as a start. As a start, it's fine to I think as a start, it's okay. It really depends on what the effect was as a start, though, right? Like, but a start, advance, or retreat 1 is very powerful. Don't get me wrong. That essentially lets you evade things really easily. And Wilhelm is a brawler, but he's not an evasive. He's not a big evasive brawler. He's kind of like a disruption brawler. So if we think about the way, okay, so chat is really interesting. So you should give this power. That way, either way, they counter your prio anti and you get the before, or you get the power and prio on them. So this is really interesting. And I think, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Kift? I think Kift gets it. Kift, I was exactly going to give this one power. So now it is a super hit confirm style that gives you some above trading. Fits brawler identity very well, right? It lets you up trade against regular characters. And against opposing brawlers? Holy heck, does this just, like, pop off. Like, this deals so much damage. By the way, because of this start, the opponent is a brawler tinker +1 power thing, we can't afford to give Wilhelm too much power. So this might be his biggest power style. Everything else will probably have 0 power or less. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So we're done. We're done for green style.
Yeah,
Simple and clean.
Do you want to put the pluses in there for +0 to 1 and +1?
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Oh no. Google Sheets. There you go, +0. All right, let's talk about. I think we have to start doing these. We do these 3, and then we do the flex style last, because the flex style should.
That's the big one.
Yeah, because that's the hardest one. Okay, Slugger Mage counter is mobility and evasion. So he needs to have. This probably is the start effect that retreats him or advances him some spaces. Which would he want? He'd want either one of both, right? But he probably. Right. But we can't give him start, advance, or retreat 1, because that just makes him too mobile. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he starts getting into Trias territory where all styles just move him constantly.
Yeah. But it could be a more limited one. It could just be start, retreat 1, right?
Sure, yeah.
That would be interesting. So against sluggers and mages. Sluggers and mages are slow, right? In general, they are very slow, or at least not the fastest characters. So if this is meant to be like a pseudo-explicit counter for them, giving this negative priority actually works out. I hate that it doesn't align the same way. There you go. You know what? Center align. I'm gonna force all of these to center align. There you go. There you go. So, because I've given it a start retreat 1, I'm actually okay giving it a prio -1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because of this specific effect, it now combos with your unique base. So that, again, it gives you even more ways to combo your unique base. But it also gets rid of one of your unique base's biggest advantages, which is the speed. So, it's not like a brain dead pair. It's a decent pair, though. Cool. What else would we want against sluggers and mages? So here's a really interesting point. And again, don't crucify me, Josh, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This could be an ignore guard style. Or this.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, if they're slow, well, like guard doesn't do anything for you, like range doesn't do anything for you because you're already hitting them. So, yeah, that's fine.
So I was thinking something like this. So power -1, priority -1, range +0, guard +0, start retreat 1, ignore guard. So this is interesting because it doesn't create an instant combo with burst, which is fine. Because you can still burst with this, right? It's just that because of the lack of range, you're not necessarily going to be able to confirm a hit against the opponent. And if the opponent plays shot, you get destroyed because burst is slow already and you're making it even slower, right?
Mm.
Am I wrong, or does this only pair with shot and unique? Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about green style? Green style pairs with a lot of things. Or are you talking about red style? Because, yeah, you might be right. Because the range means that you can't hit with Grasp. And you can't hit with... gosh, what's it? You can't hit with Strike either. That's fair, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do we want to give him even more awkward range by making it range...
+1.
Right? Like, that way... But he is a brawler. Like, here's the thing. He is, like, a brawler, right?
Right.
He could afford to just have this, right?
A +0 to 1, right, sure.
Yeah, this way, it's not, like... This way you can still confirm even from melee, and even if you're cornered. But you're playing a slow card, right?
Yeah.
Slugger mage counter. And again, why is this a slugger mage counter? Because if you ignore guard against sluggers, they cry. And if you ignore guard against some mages, they get stunned out of their big powerful effects and they might waste their cards, right? Like, because mages really like confirming with shot so that they can spend, like, you know, when Marmalie does, like, something shot, like Magni shot or whatever, right? You may want to just stun her out of her Magni shot and then she kind of cries a little bit. So that's... There you go. This is what I think.
Yeah, this looks good.
Yeah. Drive does not work, Kift. Because if we retreat one from range 1 and then advance 1 or advance 2, we'd end up at range... It technically would still work. That's fair. I don't want a card to not pair with a large majority of bases, though. Not because that's a bad design space for a character, but because this character's a brawler, and, you know, brawlers are all about having options. So not having too many options is kind of sketchy. But notice that I've already put range on this. I've already put mega range on this. And the unique base is not a range 1 base, right? I think we have enough range on this character. I think, like, from this point on, it's going to be... Oh, nope. It's going to be really hard to convince me that all of these other cards shouldn't just be +0 range.
Yeah, he's got a range base and he has 2 rangy styles, so yeah, we can probably just keep those as +0. Right.
And do remember that having a unique base that's ranged is very different from having a style that's ranged, right? Because a unique base that's ranged is basically means that all of these can essentially gain range whenever they want, as opposed to just one style which gives, like, you know, grasp and strike the range, right? So it's very important to note that just this unique base actually gives you way more range than you'd think it does. Okay, Tactician Disruptor counter. So this one's the guard style, right?
Right.
So by default, if we want a guard style to be good, we need to give it at least 3 or at least 2, right? So 2 is the minimum for a guard style to be, like, semi-decent. If you want a guard style to be self-sustaining, give it 3. If you want it to kind of work with, like, shot and kind of work if you have your unique ability up, then 2 is often fine. I think 2 is the sweet spot that we're going for here. This could be...
You think 3 might be too good?
3 is free.
Presuming it has no effects. It's just big numbers.
If you just want it to be big numbers, the style, then we could just make it 3, right? Heck, we could make it like 2 and then armor 1, right?
Right.
And then this would be semi-decent. Actually, that's not a bad idea, Josh. Like, if you just did this and then gave it, like, +0 here, like, that wouldn't be terrible, right?
Yeah, if you fight tacticians, you'll have 4 guard and 1 armor, which is pretty good.
Right. Do we want to give it less priority? Now, that's a real question. In design space for BattleCON, if your card already has natural guard on it that makes it like guard 3-ish, priority negatives are actually only good for you. So, do we want to give it less priority is the real question. Chat, what do you think? Chat, what do you think? How about chat? What does chat think? What else would we need against tacticians or disruptors? Well, against tacticians or disruptors, we actually want some movement because tacticians and disruptors tend to have... So tacticians tend to have big ranges, but where you are specifically really lets you manipulate. Like, you know, against Tannis, right? If you just move a little bit, her puppets become puppet locked. So that's one. Against disruptors, against like Luke or Schechter, just going from range 3 to range 4 is actually like really good. So something along those lines might help. If you want a repositioning, I worry that you're designing these cards only to be useful versus those archetypes. That's really... Well, here's the thing, though, right? A Star to Beat Retreat 1 style with 0 to 1 range and ignore guard is good against everyone, because everyone plays slow cards.
It is a good thing to keep in mind, right? We want to make sure that these styles aren't like complete jank against not these archetypes, right?
Yeah, of course. But that's the thing, right? That's why I didn't go into these going like, okay, like have a specific triggered effect that only works against, like, you know, I didn't do like...
Oh, that's the blue style. We'll get to that.
Right. But I didn't go into this going like, you know, before the
opponent is a slugger or a mage.
Slugger or mage. Like, you know, I didn't go into it like that because that makes these cards feel useless in matchups where you're not against a slugger or mage. Now, blue can be that because it does one of each thing. So it just morphs between matchups. But I don't want to design a style wherein like half of its triggered effects are things that aren't relevant to you, like in 70% of matchups. You know what I mean? Like that's
you don't want to look at it. You don't want to look at a style. Go, oh, I'm not fighting slugger or a mage, so I don't care about reading this card.
Right. So even if this wasn't against sluggers or mages, just think about it. Anybody who plays a shot gets scared because of this card, right? You can use this card with burst to reposition. You can also use this card with dodge to get a prio to dodge and reposition. The only thing this card is legit bad with might be shot, but that's fine. Like, why would you play this with shot? I guess because you need to hit confirm from like range 5 or something, which is fine, I guess, right?
So we have red, we have orange.
Oh, so Alien Ropeburn says, I feel the thing against tacticians is just survivability, since their damage is generally low, but the issue you have with them is they tend to have absolute effects. So this is exactly why I just decided to give it armor. Blue idea, different pairs than in the UA, so like Slugger, that's interesting.
Oh, like you pair the things up differently for blue.
Right, maybe. So one thing that we talked about in the previous stream was that if we were ever going to create more effects that cared about the pairs, we would actually explicitly not have different pairs.
Consistency is important. If I read Will's UA and I go, okay, Slugger Mage, Tactician Disruptor, Brawler Tinker, that's how all, I'm going to assume that that's how all its cards work. If the blue style said like, and the opponent is a Slugger Disruptor, my brain would explode. Or I would read Slugger first, and the next word is Mage, and I would be wrong. Right. So mixing the things up would be pretty confusing. You have to have a pretty legitimate reason to need to do that.
So that's a very important thing. Pretty legitimate reason. It's not just like, you know, you say never do it, but you have to have a good reason other than it's cute, right?
Now, a cute way to do something like that would be like a finisher or the style saying like a trigger for each one individually. Then it's very clear that I have a separate trigger. Kind of like old Path, Gar's old Path is how it was 6 triggers. You know, you could have a separate trigger for each different archetype. Because that's very immediately apparent that there's 6 lines of text. Clearly, that means that each different thing triggers a different.
Here's my problem with that, Josh.
That's messy and wonky.
That's messy. Number one, the reason why we removed that from Gar is because there was too many triggered effects. Number two,
unfortunately,
it's kind of weird that you would have a card with 5 lines of text and only one of them matters.
Right. I mean, it's thematic, sure, but is it enough to warrant a card with like 6 lines of text? Sure, and the answer is probably not.
Right.
Like, for when we get to blue, it's probably just going to be trigger opponent is a Slugger Mage, trigger opponent Tactician Disruptor, like Erie's Starlight base caring about her different forms.
Right.
We're going to keep the consistency going.
Yeah, it's not like Eerie Starlight has, you know, Mage Transformed and Mage Stabilize and, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you don't need that. Okay, so I think orange is fine. One design principle I do want to say is that I was saying that I didn't want to give him more power because against brawlers, if I made this like say +1 power, then he would have essentially +2 power styles, and he's basically a juggernaut in terms of like how much power he can throw, right? So I kind of wanted to make this like more of a trading style. So giving armor is a really good way to essentially give yourself power without giving yourself power, right? And as Alien Ropeburn said, against tacticians and disruptors, you want to just survive longer against them to make it so that their big value plays are less value, and they have to take even more turns to kill you, right? So 1 armor might not seem like a lot, but it's like muy mucho grande, right? Cool. Let's go to Brawler Tinkerer counter. This is the stat dump, is what I've put here. So a stat dump style is usually this stat line. I don't know. Yeah, it's the +1/+1 stat line, right? Like this is your smackdowns, this is your advancing, etc., etc., right? I don't think we should give this +1 power. What do you think?
I mean, as long as we don't give blue +1 power, it might be okay. It'd be.
I think we're verging.
It doubles up on his UA, which is kind of fun, but it might be too good.
I think blue. If we want, we could give blue the +1 power tied to specifically Brawler Tinkerer. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, we can keep this +0.
Right,
that's
like,
fine.
This should be a +0. Again, this is just design, right? We don't want this character to have too much power. So what would he need? So if we getting rid of 1 power, we can technically dump that stat into another stat, like priority. This could be a +2 priority style.
Yeah, you just outspeed brawlers, right?
Yeah.
Punch them first.
Because against brawlers and tinkerers, you want to be faster than them. But like this is pretty boring. What else can we do with this, right?
Right. What else does Wilhelm want against brawlers and tinkerers?
Well, not just against what does Wilhelm want, period, right?
Because in general, right?
Yeah, this +2 priority already kind of takes care of brawlers and tinkerers. So what he currently doesn't have in his kit that a brawler would want would be the ability to manipulate the opponent's positioning. That's one. It would be so he doesn't have the ability to manipulate
hit movement or something.
Maybe some hit movement, maybe some before movement, something like that. What else would he be lacking? Chat, what do you think? Add grasp? Yeah, that's what we were thinking exactly. So you could add grasp to this, and essentially, so what we're saying is that push or pull 1. So this is essentially like turn any base into pseudo grasp, right? But it's not good enough. I mean, +2 priority by itself is really good, right?
Yeah.
And people know that I hate the stat line. By the way, I'm just calling it out now. I hate the stat line. I feel like it's unfair for no reason.
But that's where testing comes in, right? When we're making making him good enough to test, right? And any numbers balance would come out after play games with Wilhelm.
Right. But is hit, push, or pull 1 good enough? I feel like
turning anything into grasp sounds pretty good.
I don't know. Because I was thinking maybe push or pull 2, but there's no reason for Wilhelm to willingly push someone 2 spaces, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't want. He has some range and stuff, sure. Like he doesn't want people. He doesn't want to use his range styles. You know, he just has them in case he needs them.
Right. I think push or pull 1 is safe enough, but we could. And here's the thing, like, the character doesn't need to have a crazy effect all the time, right? We could reserve that for blue. But I do feel like blue will be, like a bunch of, like, utility effects. So I kind of want to give him a crazy card. Like, you know, like...
Yeah, another thing like his base, that some weird gamey thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could give him another effect on yellow, sure.
Or, you know, replace this hit, right?
Right.
Like, you know, like, brawlers tend to always have that one card that gives them the utility. Like, so for example, like if you look at brawlers in my mind, right, you have Hikaru and he has Geomantic. You have Joel and he has what do you call that? He has dual wield. You have Klinhide and he has Gravity. You have Wardlaw and he has Dangerous, right? Like all of these are things that brawlers would usually want, right?
So, yeah, I'm trying to think of something that might be, a little less dry, right? A little more fun, but still do something that he would want.
Yeah.
Dangerous is ward laws, their advance becomes retreats, right?
Right. Dual wield lets you swap out the base. Geomantic
Yeah.
lets you ante an extra token after seeing your opponent's attack pair.
Right.
Gravity turns all of your advances into pulls and all of your retreats into pushes.
So yeah, is there some kind of other gamey thing we can mess with? That
Right.
what else is Wardline not touching yet? He touches force. He touches, game categorizations. He touches styles.
Yeah, what other board game component? Like
What other board gamey things could he mess with?
he could touch life, but that's just damage.
Life is scary. Flipping finishers is weird and probably pointless. Messing with discards seems too good.
Oh, you could just swap the order of their discards, but that seems like insanity to me.
That's pretty good. What else is there? There's token areas, but that's too specific. So even supply is too specific. You can't mess with UAs, really, because then a character implodes.
Yellow shot could get dumb at mid-range. It sounds pretty dumb at mid-range. Don't get me wrong. Hey, but hey, that's what balancing is for. He wants some positional manipulation, right?
I was gonna propose something a little probably too zany. Could he swap non-unique bases in hands or something like that?
So he can swap his base out for another base?
No, he swaps his bases with your bases. You take all your normal bases in their bases and you swap them. That way you still have the same components, but you might increase or decrease the numbers.
Yeah, but then you could have 2 dodges and then they don't have any dodges.
Yeah, that'd be insane. Yeah, too much.
So we could.
He hasn't done any clashy stuff yet.
Oh, a clash card. That would be interesting. But having a clash. Oh, okay. I like that.
He clashes, but he Wilhelm clashes, right? It's not a normal clash. It's a weird clash.
Right.
It's like a clash butt.
So chat is saying SOB, the opponent is a type this beat. That's interesting. What about viewing cards? The opponent must play their cards face up or something. Or even more fun, the opponent must randomly select their cards. That's not fun for the opponent, so no. You have to always consider that your character should be fun to play against as well.
Yeah, it's not just fun to play as. It's both. It goes both ways.
But somebody does have a really interesting point. The opponent is a type this beat. That's actually really interesting.
That's interesting, but it's problematic because the game can't track that. Nothing Will has and nothing in the game can tell your opponent, by the way, you're a brawler for the rest of this turn. Well, so that's a bit of a problem.
What do you mean? We could just create a status effect card like we do with every character that does that.
Yeah, you could. I forgot status effects were a thing for a second.
I mean, and don't forget, we do this in BattleCON all the time. Opponent has -2 power.
But that would be... So this gets a little bit into production issues. So not only is design problem as far as balance, it's also problem as far as production. If we made an effect that Will would need 6 different status effect cards for each type.
Right.
Which is a little ridiculous. It's not beyond the bounds of costs or anything, but it's a little ridiculous for one have 6 status effects because of 1 card.
Right.
I don't think that would justify doing that.
And note that this is a very important part of design as well, is that is the component tax, quote unquote, worth the benefit that you're gaining, right?
Yeah, if his UA used those status, it's how Daijin has wish cards that he uses in a bunch of ways, then maybe that's okay. If it's only tied to one thing, that's a little much, I think.
Right. Ooh, this is really interesting. Maybe a clash that lets him reposition during the clash.
I was going to say clash that's clashes styles instead of bases.
Clash with styles instead of bases. Oh, somebody already said that too.
Is that good or is that just bad?
That's insanity.
Okay.
That's insanity. Because what would happen is you'd clash out yellow, right? And then you'd play their new style, right? Then you would clash again, but this time you don't have yellow anymore. So you clash with your base. So it's not even internally consistent, right?
Right. It's not worth it. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's the thing. What if we gave this +1 priority instead, but gave it tiebreaker? Okay.
Okay.
And
that's not very common, right? On styles.
Yeah, it's not very common to give a style tiebreaker, so that's good, right?
Right.
It means that he has a safe dodge.
Right.
Okay. Here's. Okay.
Oh, so he style clashes kind of like by himself.
Right.
That's mean.
So, well, this is free. I don't like it being free. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What if you add a condition to the start trigger?
Yeah, you have to clash.
Yeah.
Your priority is the same as the opponent. Swap this style with one from your...
Wouldn't it be cleaner to say start you clashed this turn?
No, because you have tiebreaker. You can't clash.
Oh, right. You have the tiebreaker now, sure. Mm.
I mean, we could remove tiebreaker, and then we could say you clashed.
Yeah. So, for the people that think I'm a hypocrite in the room, kind of, saying you clashed, well, of course, the game also doesn't remind you that you clashed either. But since this is a start trigger, clashing would have literally just happened like a second ago. So it's reasonable to ask the player, hey, remember that thing that happened literally a second ago? Okay.
Right. Yeah, I think this is fair, right? So you have to actually clash with this card. And
yeah.
swap
How
it
easy
back.
or hard is that to do? I'm not sure.
Oh, it's decently hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't like the idea with the clash. Why? Explain.
Yeah. It's too hard, maybe.
Explain. Chat, explain your reasoning. Why do you not like it?
It could be, if it is too hard to clash with this style, then the trigger essentially just does nothing, right?
I mean, here's the thing. Like, we were already talking about how it was okay to just have hit, push one, or pull one, right? So,
right, yeah.
So it's probably fine that, the clash effect doesn't happen. I do think that tiebreaker is cleaner.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a little wordier, but it is cleaner, right? Yeah,
because you don't clash mid-beat and then change, 17 cards,
Yeah, it's something that happens. It's something that's a pleasant thing to happen, as opposed to a thing I have to be constantly trying to do, right? If I saw this style in my hand, I would kill myself, because now I have to constantly think, okay, what pairs can I play to make sure it clashes? And that's a lot of thinking for a character that's supposed to be simple, right?
But this one is just like, okay, so if I play this, I never get clashed. And if I happen to have the same,
and if it happens to work out, I get another cool thing. Sure.
Yeah, and the cool thing is I can play this card again next turn and then maybe swap into one of my other cards, right?
Yeah, in before you play the one where he plays this style every turn.
That would be godlike.
How many turns in a row can you spam this style?
Yeah. And here's the thing. If this is broken, you can just make this +0, right?
Right. Yeah, and that would come from testing, of course.
So what I do like about this is that this turns into a mega utility style. Like, if you swap out your style, you can turn it into, say, green. You can turn it into orange for armor. You can turn it into red. I think red is the biggest payout here, because you can turn it into red to retreat 1 and then ignore guard.
Yeah, you get the ignore guard and retreat on a faster style.
Right. So I think that's the biggest payout. But note, his quote-unquote biggest payout is 2 damage. So...
But it makes you feel smart, right?
Yeah, and that's the big point, right?
You get to do a fun, smart thing.
Yeah, and it's really important that your character has a card like this that that rewards play skill. You know what I mean? Right? Like you want to purposely tie this at the right time so you can clash them out, right? But here's the thing: if you're already clashing and if you win the tie against a fast-ish card, I mean, turning it into ignore guard isn't really gonna change much. You know what I mean? Like if you play yellow, say grasp or yellow drive or whatever, and you clash with your opponent's speed 5 attack, do you honestly need ignore guard against that speed 5 attack? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, so we have the last one.
Big blue.
Okay,
Right.
now this is really interesting. Because
Trigger the opponent is XYZ.
Because we've created this style, right? We've created this style. I don't think any of these should be start, by definition.
Yeah, because if you swap into this, like, that's big scary.
It becomes big free, right?
It is an interesting point, though, that you bring up, that, you know, the triggers should probably all be the same, regardless of what trigger it is, so that it's easy or brain space on the player, right? This could say, you know, before Slugger or Mage, after Tactician Disruptor, and Brawler or Tinker, but that's a nightmare to remember how it works. At least if they're all off the same trigger, you know the timing is consistent.
Right.
So whatever trigger we decide on, they should probably all be the same trigger. If it makes sense with the effects, of course.
Right. I think... So when it comes to this, like, when it comes to, like, a multimodal style, I usually like starting with +0, +0, +0, +0. Because...
Yeah, because all the crazy stuff is going to come in on the effects. So.
Right. So the flex style. So this should be doing stuff that you're... So this is... I think this should be coverage. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This should be your way of dealing with the other classes. And it gives you access to certain parts. So, example. Maybe you don't want... Maybe you need the power against a slugger or a mage. Or maybe you need the mobility against a brawler thing. You know what I mean?
Could this, like, this might be too scary. Could this just literally double down on your UA? Like, it just repeats the UA effects, but on a different trigger, maybe.
I mean, at that point, it's just passive, right?
Yeah, basically. You know, like the Brawler or Tinker one could give you more power.
Right.
On, like, hit or
but
something.
I think the Tactician Disruptor one gets weird because then you just have a 4-guard style. You don't need that.
Yeah, where do you put the guard? Yeah, right.
Yeah, we
So
already
other
have guard in
things.
orange.
Other things we want against these archetypes.
Yeah. So what would we want against a Slugger Mage that we don't already have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well... Okay, what if this is all hit, right? I think hit,
that's probably the cleanest trigger.
Yeah, I think hit is one of the safest things because it means you actually need to confirm a hit. Oh, wait. It's not the same font size. Default Arial. Okay. Arial. What? Okay, maybe it just needs to be font size 10. There you go. Playing into the target's strength. Okay, Kift, what do you mean? Explain. Sorry. I'm gonna go template this a little bit because it's pissing me off a bit.
Yeah, that's fine. So we are at about an hour. Do we want to save the finishers and naming for another one, or do we want to go a little long? And
we just go a little long, and because I already have ideas for the finishers and
okay, cool.
Yeah. Hit, slugger, guard, or plus armor to trade better. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking. Is that you kinda this one lets you brawl like this one lets you act like a slugger or mage or a tactician or a disruptor or a brawler or tinker. You know?
Oh, okay, that's cool. All right, sure.
Right. So. Yeah. Okay. So because your UA is countering them, your blue style should be like, I'm better at you at the one thing you thought you were good at, right?
Right.
So this could be armor too. Like that's it. Against tacticians or disruptors, they like positioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can just like 1 to 6.
Wow. Okay.
Just a full board teleport.
Sure.
I mean, it's a +0, +0, +0. Like,
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, we can offload all the fun stuff onto the effects. Yeah, that's what's cool about quote balance, right?
Right. Okay, this one is hard though. How do you
just punch harder, right?
more power?
Just be more power. Yeah, another power or two.
Like this?
Yeah. Then he doubles down his UA, which is kind of funny. So if he fights a brawl, or he gets 2 power of this, which is fun.
But doesn't that just make this worse than green if you're fighting against a brawler?
I mean, it makes it different than green, right? You have 2 of them. You're not gonna have green in your hand all the time.
I mean, yeah, but it feels weird that against a brawler, green is like just better.
I mean, what else do you want against a brawler then besides power?
Oh, setup for next turn against a brawler would be interesting. Oh.
Like, okay. So like a movement, a 3rd movement effect. 4th, actually.
That's things that exist.
Sure. So that does create a status effect.
Oh, that's just one though. It only creates one.
My concern here would be naming. I'm worried that Wilhelm's card names are going to be weird, which would mean his status effect name would also be weird. And status effect cards are mini cards, which means they don't have a lot of space to put a name. So we have to be careful. Well, again, design bleed to other areas, not just balance, not just actual production costs. Also, design economy, space economy.
Right.
All these things we have to think about when we make new characters for games.
I mean, we just call this adaptive, right?
That's boring. He's fucking Wilhelm, right?
That's fair. Hey, you can't swear on this show.
Sorry, he's Wilhelm, right?
It's freaking Wilhelm.
Freaking Wilhelm. Like, he's got to have fun, like, names. He's got to have meta names.
All right.
He's a pretty lore-y character.
Okay, can I literally just call green style hit confirm?
Okay, that might be a little too lore-y. Like, no, a little too much.
Fine, confirmed. Confirmed. How about that?
Yeah, that's fine. That's safe middle one, right? Yeah.
Confirmed.
That's good. Yeah, so we don't want to finish naming these. Oh, you want to get to the finishers too, right?
Yeah.
So.
Hard read on this one. How about this one?
Sure.
Armor. What's armor?
What's the game? So, like, on a normal character, this style would be called, like, armored or something, right? What's the meta way to say that?
Survivability.
Yeah, survival. I don't think survival is a style that exists.
No, it's not. I would tell you if it was.
Okay. Right.
Okay, so here's the thing. I would call this stunning, but we can't, because stun is a word in the game that's used. So.
Right. I mean, we could, but it's probably not a good idea to call this stunning. It's also misleading. This is a card called stunning that doesn't stun.
Well, technically, it ignores guard, right?
I guess, yeah. It stuns that way.
Ignoring.
Right. Nah, that's a little on the nose.
Something math related, right?
Yeah, he has a planar science major. So.
How about this? Disproved.
Sure. Yeah, fake news. Style.
Your guard is fake. Bam.
Right. Yeah. Guard isn't real.
Okay, this one though.
So this is the
I need a math term. I need a math term would be useful, right?
Do you want me to just open up my old Rixia kit that's useless now? Because that has a bunch of math terms on it. Probable, maybe?
No,
you want to save it for his base?
This one has to be called probability, right?
Probability, yeah.
So, like, confirmed probability, survival probability, hard read.
That sounds kind of weird with his style, but he wouldn't be the first character with weird style-based name combinations.
Fainting feint.
See, that's fun.
Who has calculated?
Probable probability. Pretty sure there's a character. There's not a character with calculated. Are you kidding?
Does Melandrax have calculated?
Kagia or Caitlyn or Melandrax don't have that?
Victor has it. Okay.
Oh, Victor got it? Wow.
Wow, yeah, dude.
See, that's also kind of thing you have to remember for flavor in games like Battle. It's like sometimes we will think of a style game and we will not give it to a character because we know another character is coming that deserves it more, right?
Right.
Like I designed Wilhelm, or not Wilhelm, Wardlaw, and I was so mad making his style that turns advances into retreats because Jaeger had, I think it was Jaeger or had the style that I would have preferred to call it. And we had to call it dangerous instead.
What's the name?
I'm trying to remember what the original was. I'm having a hard time thinking about that. If I think of it, I'll let you. But let's get to these finishers.
Right. Okay. Calculate. No, but Victor has calculated, so we can't call this calculated.
Right.
Okay. Does Caitlyn have axiomatic? Right. She does have that. Right?
Yeah. Axiomatic is totally a style name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Math terms.
You just need a synonym for calculated.
Full moon, probably. Oh, mean. Mean.
Oh, okay, fine.
That's like the average, right? Because this one averages.
Right.
So, and beside mean probability.
Yeah. Sure.
With that, I kind of want to rename these so that they work with probability.
I mean, they don't have to, right? Like, we can't go the whole 9 yards necessarily.
That's fair. I mean, we don't have time. That's the real answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
That too, yeah.
So
fixed in post.
we already know difficulty focused. So this one is gonna be easy, right? Start. The opponent is beginner.
I don't remember what the current.
Is it beginner or novice? I think it's beginner.
I know novice used to be a thing, but I don't know if it is now.
Okay, this, I want to put the word character after. I'll explain why. Okay, this is difficulty focused, right? So I want to say character because beginner, intermediate, advanced can be used to describe the player you're fighting against, and because this character is a meta character, it would not be unheard of for people to read this and go, okay, I'm fighting against a newbie. I get this. I get this effect.
Yeah, I mean, if we get technical, those terms are difficulty, right? So the correct wording would probably be the opponent is beginner difficulty, the opponent is intermediate difficulty.
Okay, that's fair.
Because if you say character, a player might not understand what that means. If you say difficult, you go, oh, it's that thing on the back of my UA.
Sure, right? I like that. Is beginner difficulty, intermediate difficulty, is advanced difficulty. Okay, cool.
And I don't know what the term for the categories we have in this UA are. I don't know if it's called fighting style or categorization or whatever.
Whatever, it's fine.
So it's fine for now, yeah.
So this is the weakness cover. So weakness cover finishers tend to, be weakness covers. This means that we may want to... so beginner difficulty characters tend to be stat monsters, so you kind of want to have like a utility effect that makes them miss, right, regardless of their stats, right? Okay. There you go. Avoid attacks at range 2 to 3. There you go. That lets you, and that covers you against all sorts of things. What's intermediate? So intermediates tend to be your. Okay, so beginners are definitely brawl stat boys. Intermediates tend to be the... Okay, well, if they are brawl stat boys, they should just be avoid attacks at range 1, not 2 to 3, because...
Yeah. Should this just be all different avoid attacks at range X, right?
Oh, that's actually really good.
Because difficulties don't necessarily key to mechanics as clean as archetypes do, right? So Yeah, like but it is probably more. Dodging is always useful, right? Avoiding is always good. So
there you go. So you avoid
Yeah.
attacks at range 1, avoid attacks range 2 to 3, avoid attacks at range 4+. There you go.
yeah, how many advanced characters do long range things? Well, we'd probably have to do some research on that, but this is fine for now.
Look, against advanced characters, they're usually tacticians, so you'll end up at range 4 against them.
Right. So now it's clean and simple and clean.
And avoid attacks is a very powerful effect, so it's good that it's on the finisher.
So you want like lower power, lower.
Okay, here's the real thing though.
Maybe as low speed as you want, because
I kind of want to do. So this has to be decent damage. I kind of want to do some garbage like this.
Sure.
Like
it's slow, right? If you don't dodge correctly, you just get punched in the face anyway. So.
Right. Yeah. So I'm exactly thinking that. So it's a full board attack that if you play into your opponent's difficulty correctly and read them, you pay out with 7 damage. That's good.
Yeah. Shouldn't this be called hard read?
Oh my god. You're right.
Because this is like the hardest, readiest card I've ever seen.
Okay, we need to change what this is called then.
Yeah, we need to change his yellow style.
Repeating.
Repetitive.
Does somebody already have repeating?
Repeat. Probably.
No, I don't think so.
I
know returning
so, really?
I know
That's
returning
crazy.
exists.
It's repeating. Oh man. Even if they do, we could just change it to repetitive. So that's fine.
No, but this way it's repeating probability. So
Right. That's fair. Yeah, that's good. Names are also very important mechanically too, in that a name tells me what a card is immediately, which is good for up front when I'm first reading. I go, oh, I get it. It repeats, duh. But also later on when I've played well a lot, I can just read repeating and immediately know what it does because the name makes sense with what it does.
Oh, I like that.
It's an armor card.
Yeah, sorry.
Ignores the card. Oh, fundamental.
Fundamental is good because it's a fundamentals card.
yeah, that's fair. That's also good. Yeah.
Okay, so finisher 2 is really, really brain dead simple for me.
Go for it. Is it something silly where it's like trigger the opponent is any archetype? Like you don't separate them, you just make one trigger.
For the rest of the duel, the opponent is all archetypes.
Right. So yeah, now Wilhelm has a second status effect, but that's okay because it's all of them. So.
And it's a finisher.
Right. Yeah, and it's a finisher. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That is a pretty obvious finisher. Yeah. You make him everything, so now his triggers on all of the things all the time, which is pretty scary. Right. He now gets +2 guard, +1 and an advanced retreat on everything he plays to the game. Not to mention that bits of styles care about this too. Yeah. So you get all your styles.
And mean would be like armor 2, push or pull 1 to 6, and the opponent's -1. It's insanity.
Yeah, is that even good? Who cares, right?
It's just insanity, right?
It's just funny, right? Yeah, and it's cool. Sure, and it's really fast because it just gives you the thing later.
Yeah, but of course people can dodge it, right? By just bursting.
Yeah, because it's range 1, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the balance of the numbers.
There you go. That's Wilhelm.
There you go, yeah. We have
print it, ship it, baby.
A new fan character that we are in no way obligating to print at any point in time. Is the important takeaway from this. Right. This does not mean we are making Wilhelm. But
for all intents and purposes, people could consider this.
It is a fun exercise, right?
It is a fun exercise.
We do this for games all the time, where we, make a bunch of characters just to see how they work. Like we talked about Bullet, right? We made 20 heroines for Bullet before we narrowed it down to 8. So like, I have UAs for days that you haven't even seen yet. Same for Battle 2. We made a Futures League a long time. People that remember the forums, right? There's like 10 more battle that we made just for the heck of it. We spitballed. Candide is a character. Levine is a character. Technically, will you ever see them? Probably not. But that's kind of part of this. The develop process. We got to spitball a bunch of stuff before we get to things that we actually want to do.
Right.
So now you have Wilhelm that you can print and play, I guess, if you want to make him yourself with our new card creation stuffs.
Yeah, if you want to make the cards yourself, feel free. I will post this in the comments section of this livecast. I will also post it on our Discord. I might share it on our social media as well. So there you go. There's Wilhelm. That's the character creation process. And I think it's very important that we got into a lot of those points. And Josh especially said one of the biggest things is that when we design a character, 9 times out of 10, we've learned from our mistakes, and we now know that like when you design something, it balloons into so much other things, right? Like how many extra components do they need? Like does this increase, like, you know, like even the thing where people are like, oh, you can just change the pairs so that they have like coverage, and I'm like, is that actually good? Does it actually make the play experience easy? Like it's stuff like that. Like it's not just, you know, oh, is this mathematically balanced, but this style has 3 paragraphs that make it balanced. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's a lot of things considered to make a viable product, and doing all this up front will make your testing a lot smoother, right?
Right.
You won't get to the table and go, you know, oh, I start playing and my UA immediately breaks. Crap, now I have to go back to the drawing board.
Right.
You know, you'll lessen the chance of that happening.
And this is setting yourself up for success, because I bet I could play this character like 4 times and basically sign off and say, like, this character is not gonna like top tournament charts, but this character is not gonna be so bad at their voco, right? Like,
yeah, I can certainly tell this is not a voco. Old voco. 4th edition voco, I assume, is better.
4th edition voco might be like top 20 characters.
Oh wow, that's great. Good.
But yeah, so there you go, everyone. Hopefully you all enjoyed this little exercise that we've done. Share it with your friends. Share it with people who, you know, might be wondering, how do I make a style in BattleCON? How do I design a character in BattleCON? And etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, but make sure they watch part 1. Because the only reason this seems simple, Josh, is because
we've done it a lot, right?
Well, no, but also because in part 1 we set ourselves up to make this easy.
We made it to where we can get to these things and do them really quickly and simply.
Right.
And you know, if you like seeing this, you know, leave us some comments. You know, maybe this again for one of our other games.
Ooh.
Show you how design works. Maybe we can make this like a mini series when we're not talking about important work stuff. We can, you know, design a character for PT or Bullet or whatever.
Oh, that would be so cool. Like
you can see how this process changes for each game and how we have to consider different things.
That's such a cool thing. You're gonna have to carry me through Bullet.
Oh, that'll be easy. Bullets, that's kind of one of the things you'll notice too. Is like, if we did Bullet, it would be so much easier than BattleCon. There's a lot less things to consider.
Yeah.
But the things you do consider, you have to like consider a long time, right?
Right.
You can't just give a hero and a UA and stuff. But well, you know, if you want to see that, if you want to talk more about other games and how we design games, let us know, and maybe we'll come back another week with another design session.
All right. So, without much else to say, it has been me, your host, Marcos Santos, also known as Mechanic Rick, and with me has been Bullet Designer Supreme, Production Manager Supreme, Project Manager Supreme, God Overlord, not of Level 99 Games, but of his own destiny, the one, the only,
Josh, or 3. Happy gaming, everybody.
Don't forget your special action, or I guess switch style, and thank you, World of Indians. Thank you, and good night.